Why was the cucumber mad?
Why?
Because he was in a pickle.
Oh, man.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to Hungry Square Podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I, Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we are talking all about the Instant Pot with a little side of veganism.
What?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Sharon, how have you been? Have you eaten anything awesome this week?
Oh, man. I have been traveling for work this week.
Again?
Yes,
Oh,
again.
man.
I've been doing a lot lately.
Yeah, you really have. It's kind of been a bummer.
Yeah, it has.
I've missed you.
I've missed you, and I miss podcasting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in St. George, Utah, which is southern Utah, kind of close to Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a place called George's on Main Street.
Okay. What do they serve?
Americana food.
Okay.
So it's pretty good. They've got a lot of burgers, salads, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And what I ate this week was more like what I drank this week, because they had a delightful, let's see if I can remember it. It was a lemonade. It was their house lemonade.
Okay.
And it's a chili mint lemonade.
So like a chili as in like almost a pepper
Spicy.
chili.
A spicy mint lemonade.
Oh.
Chili spice.
Was it very hot? Was it?
No.
Was it just the right amount?
It had just a slight kick, and the mint kind of cooled it off at the same time. So it didn't burn your mouth or anything, but you really did get a little bit of a kick in your throat. Like just at the
Nice.
back of your palate. It was really good. Non-alcoholic. It's their house lemonade. It was great. So good.
That sounds awesome. I love a little spiciness to unexpected things such as lemonade. I had a limeade with a chili pepper in there
yum.
too, and it was delightful.
Yeah. So good.
You just say like, yes, I'll have more of that.
Yeah. I was so excited that I got a refill. What did you eat this week?
So I hosted a book club this week.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I chose the book, and it's called Garlic and Sapphires by Ruth Reichel.
Love that.
Do you know that book?
I love that. I think I borrowed that book at one point from you.
There's a good chance of it. So Ruth Reichel she's a writer, and she used to be for the New York Times food critic.
Mm-hmm.
And this book is a little bit of a biography of how she had to dress up in order to go out to eat so that she wouldn't be recognized, because she found that whenever she was just herself, Ruth Reichel, the New York Times food critic, she would get different treatment.
Yeah, she would get exceptional service and exceptional food, while
Yes.
her fellow diners, even at the same time, weren't getting what she got.
Yes. And she's like, that's not fair. That's not the way it should be. So she would dress up. And the fun thing that happened is the nice thing about the book is that there's recipes throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I made my first cheesecake.
Yay!
Yeah.
Cheesecake!
So I made the cheesecake that was in that book, and it was very basic and very easy. And I think it turned out pretty well. I added something a little to it. I wanted a ganache topping.
Yum.
So I did a ganache topping, and I added some of the King Arthur Fleur de Sicilia, I think is what it's called.
Fleur de Sel?
Fleur de Sel, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's citrusy and vanilla-y. I don't even know what the flavoring is, but it's a little different. And put that into that chocolate as well. And it made it it was delightful. And I was excited because the cheesecake turned out. I was pretty proud of myself.
Exciting. Did you do the water bath and everything?
No, this one doesn't require a water bath.
Oh, wow.
So it worked out
That's
really,
nice.
really well. I was very happy with it. So I will
Awesome.
probably be using that recipe again.
Awesome.
On another funny note, my other the other participants at this book club, they decided to dress up.
Which makes sense, because if you guys ever read this book, and I totally think you should.
Yes, it's called Garlic and Sapphires.
And it gets a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's real.
Yeah.
This is really happening to her. I mean, she buys all these different wigs and costumes, and like she just looks ridiculous at some points, but she's like, okay. I mean, she's dark haired and stuff like that. She's wearing blonde wigs,
Yeah.
like dark glasses, tons of makeup.
Yep.
I think at one point she puts on a fake nose.
Or I don't remember. There's just a lot of get-ups that she gets into.
I mean, it's Halloween like times 100.
Yeah. And so it was really fun because a couple of people surprised everybody and showed up in costume. One was dressed up like an old woman. It was so awesome. And the other person was dressed up like a goth chick.
Nice.
Like dark black lipstick, everything. It was pretty entertaining. We had a really good night. It was super fun. So
fun.
And now for the main course.
Okay, let's get down to our topic at hand. We have an interview today with
Kathy Hester. Yay!
Woohoo.
So Kathy is quite an accomplished author. She is the author of HealthySlowCooking.com, and her tagline is plant-based recipes your whole family will love. And as I've been going through it, I was like, yes, I think I would love all of these things. She is also a recipe developer. She teaches many classes. She's a freelance writer, menu plans for people, and she is, like I said, an author. She has 5 books out and one that is going to be coming out in January of 2017. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. But like I said, a couple of her books are the Easy Vegan Cookbook and the Vegan Slow Cooker for 2 or just for you. I really like that one, Kathy. That one was, I was like, oh, that I need something like that sometimes when you're cooking just for a couple of people. It would be nice to have something that's scaled down that way. So thank you so much for coming on to our podcast today. We're looking forward to talking to you about the Instant Pot specifically.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited.
So Kathy, I kind of heard about you and all of your amazing books, and especially that you were tackling the Instant Pot. So can you give us a little bit of a history of how you got started doing blogging, and then also maybe even how you got into becoming a vegan?
Oh, sure. I've been meatless for 33 years. So I went vegetarian in 1983.
Wow. That's like the original kind of thing. I mean, most of your life.
Yeah, sort of. I look older than I sound, I promise. But it was one of those things that made a connection for me. And then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I had made a conscious choice, and I'm a stubborn individual. So I made that choice one day and I never ate meat again.
Nice.
Now, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I started doing vegan. And that's because I just, again, got more information and realized that it's one of those things, you can't unknow things once you know. I mean, as you guys are meat eaters, so if you know what's in a hot dog, it makes you think twice about eating a hot dog.
Yes.
That is very true.
So it's kind of the same thing, just in a different little way. Like once you have certain amount of information, then you kind of have to make a choice, whatever that choice is for you. I do it for moral reasons, though it can also be done for health reasons. And I'm super non-judgmental. So people need to do what they need to do. They can just come to me or come to Healthy Slow Cooking to get a recipe for Meatless Monday, or because they want to know more about how to cook with beets or whatever. So some places it gets very segregated, but that's not my segment of the world at all. So that's kind of how that happened. And I was vegetarian back when it was super hard. Like there was no tofu or tempeh at the grocery store. Aww. And you'd kind of like go into these weird natural food places that really were kind of like a room in somebody's house.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so it was real underground.
Yeah.
You know, so it made it seem cooler too.
Hipster cooking, right?
Like mystery. But it wasn't that hard for me. I know some people need to transition slower or do things in their own time too. I started blogging. Healthy Slow Cooking is probably my 3rd blog. One I was just doing for friends. Another one I was kind of doing because I was bored. And I was going to write a vegan slow cooker ebook for some friends. And I did nothing. Like nothing. A whole year went by and nothing happened. And I'm like, okay, this has to change. I'm going to make this blog, Healthy Slow Cooking, and all my friends can like harass me. And what happened is 4 months after that, a publisher had been actively looking for someone to write a vegan slow cooker cookbook.
Oh, nice.
And that's how it happened.
So you were at the right place at the right time, and also it was kind of motivation to not be such a slacker for your friends.
Absolutely. Well, I was in kind of a weird job because I was a web developer before I started doing all of this stuff. And I had gotten this great job with an office and benefits, and it was really great. And it was the most boring job I've ever had.
Oh.
And so over the 8 years of being there, I actually unlearned every web developer thing I learned pretty much. So like I was pretty much copying and pasting HTML in multiple languages. So I can tell on sight the difference between Korean, Japanese, and Chinese, which I know is not a big feat for most people, but I'm just a dumb American. So I thought that was pretty awesome. I have friends from all of those places, but I don't read the languages. But yeah, I could have been copying and pasting anything,
Oh,
and I
man.
had no idea.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that made it a little easier. I actually worked on 3.5 of those books while I was still working there.
How in the world did you do that? That is crazy. Because these are beautiful, well thought out cookbooks. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, the photography is gorgeous, and I've seen some of those recipes, and they're fantastic.
I've worked with some really great photographers in the past too, and had some good publishers. But like the first book was really, really hard because I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't really professionally developed recipes. I got a book, tried to learn the right way to do it instead of just my way. And doing a slow cooker book is harder because it's not like, okay, the stir fry didn't work out. Let me just go ahead and start it again.
Oh,
right?
yeah, you have to have a whole day before you realize that that recipe bombed.
I didn't even realize that.
And so the most you can do is kind of like, if you do 8 hours on low, it's pretty much the same as 4 hours on high. So that's like super speedy for a slow cooker.
Super speedy. In 4 hours, in half a day, you'll realize that it was great or not.
So I ended up having like 20 some slow cookers so that I could have a bunch of things going at the same time.
20?
And note to everyone in your audience, never cook Mexican, Indian, and Italian at the same time.
Oh my gosh, how did your house smell?
Oh, it was horrible. So what I did is I'd come home from work, and that's how it smelled. I'm like, I'm letting all this cool, going to put it in the fridge and try it tomorrow when I'm not ready to just be sick. And we're going to go out to eat tonight.
So you and your wife live in North Carolina, is that right?
Yeah.
You live in Durham. So is she also vegan?
No.
Oh, she's not. Okay.
She's an omnivore, although usually I think of an omnivore as someone who eats everything. So that to me, that's a meat eater that goes, yay, I'm making tofu tonight, and is excited about it too, or broccoli. And when I met Cheryl, she wasn't even eating broccoli. She'd eat peas, corn, and green beans.
So have you expanded her eating her horizons?
She'll even eat Brussels sprouts and asparagus now.
That's exciting.
She's still a picky eater, and I've actually had people ask me how old my daughter, Cheryl, is.
Oh, no.
Because she is a picky eater. She could eat chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese every night, and she doesn't care if they're vegan or not.
Well, we all deal with picky eaters, I think, one way or the other. I mean, it follows you, I think.
So how does your recipe development work at home? Does that make sense? Like, does she take part in it? Or is it all just you have to try it and that's it?
Okay, that makes sense. She usually tries things. Sometimes I can't always count on her. And like sometimes she'll say things that she doesn't mean to be super insulting, but they are. So, for instance, I did outrageous oatmeals, which is not just oatmeal. It's like all different kinds of sweet and savory recipes with oats.
Right.
And one of the things I made was sausage crumbles with steel cut oats.
Okay.
Oh.
That would be interesting. I would like to try it.
Yeah.
That sounds like that would be cool.
It's super cool.
Because the texture, right? It depends on the texture.
Yeah, because what you do is you kind of cook the steel cut oats about 3/4 of the way. Then you mix in the spices, and then you spread it on something on your pan. Usually I use parchment paper because it is going to make kind of a nasty mess. And you kind of break it up and move it around as you're baking it until it's like little crispies.
Nice.
And you can season them with sausage spices or pepperoni spices. really anything you wanted to do. So I made a pizza with that. And Cheryl's like, this is so great. It tastes just like Totino's sausage. And I'm like,
You know what? I think that's a compliment.
I do too.
Coming from someone who who will eat macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggets every day, that's a sincere compliment, right?
it is true. And, yeah. But luckily, when I'm in full-fledged recipe development, I usually have friends come pick up stuff because I'm making so much food in a small amount of time. You know, in like a month, you're making like 100 meals
Oh my gosh.
or something like that because some things get made twice or 3 times by me.
And you
So
probably
they'll
don't
take-
want all of the same thing in the deep freeze.
Well, and you run out of room. And what happens too is then I'm also doing recipe development for the blog, and I do for brands and
Yeah.
things like that. So we had a problem with our freezer last year, and I realized we were pulling out things from like 2 years ago that had
Oh,
gotten stuck in the
no.
back. Yeah, no, and I'm like, okay, this is really not cool. So I have friends who taste it, and sometimes they'll give me feedback. Sometimes I will also be like, this is the one that I'm not keeping. So just, you know, I think it needs more ginger or whatever, and you guys can fix it. You're on your own. Because I don't want to throw it out. But I also have a team of testers, and most of them have been with me over the years. So they test the recipes and give me feedback and suggestions. Sometimes their stuff will make it to the cookbook, and I'll credit them as well. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's nice to have that. I mean, some of them have been with me long enough that they're pretty brutal.
You kind of need that. You need somebody that's going to test that recipe to death, and because you want it to be good. Because that's one thing I've found, that if I try one recipe in a cookbook and it doesn't work, then I just kind of like, oh well, okay, on to the next cookbook.
Yeah, and you can't know which recipe somebody's testing and giving your cookbook a shot at, I suppose.
No, and it can be hard. It's also really hard with like slow cooker, Instant Pot, different appliance cookbooks, because people expect everything to work exactly the same. So in my slow cooker cookbooks, I have a whole chapter about how to figure out how your slow cooker cooks. Because I could buy 2 next to each other at Target right now, bring them home. One might cook hot and one might not.
Wow.
And there's nothing I mean, there are standards, but it's still just electrical equipment.
Right.
And so what happens is if you look at bad reviews of my book, you'll either see that everything is watery or everything burned.
Oh, wow.
And it's because if you had looked, you would have done a little test and realized my soup is boiling. Mine must run hot. So therefore, I'll need to put some extra liquid into everything I make.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. And if you have an older one, like I think it's before in the 90s, somewhere in the 90s, they changed how slow cookers get regulated because of meat safety issues.
Okay.
So they raise the temperature. So if you ever hear like a relative who said, oh my God, a new slow cooker, they're all horrible. They boil
Yes.
them low.
Yes.
That's because it used to be that in one of my old ones, like from the late 80s, I could make lasagna and let it cook all day. Well, if you did that now, you're going to come home to a pile of mush.
Mhm.
So you just can't. And you're not supposed to cook on warm. And especially don't ever try to cook meat on warm. So you can kind of get away with it a little bit with vegetables, but
Right.
the meat safety stuff is there for a really good reason. It's a really wide range of things that you have to think about. And I think people think, well, I got a 2-quart slow cooker. I followed the directions exactly. It didn't turn out. And, you know, I'm not saying that I never make things that some people won't like, because there's always going to be something in a cookbook that's not for you.
Right.
You know, if it's the spices or if it's not spiced enough. But there are times that it's like, you know, people have to really troubleshoot. So I troubleshoot with a lot of my readers. When I first came out with the vegan slow cooker, which was my first book, I actually searched Twitter for anybody saying they were having any problems, and I would contact them and help them troubleshoot.
That's awesome. So now going to the Instant Pot, though, what inspired you to start vegan cooking with the Instant Pot?
Well, and also because the Instant Pot is a brand, isn't it? And
It is a brand, and it's a multi-cooker. So usually, like Fager has a multi-cooker too that has like a electric pressure cooker, slow cooker, rice cooker. I know the Instant Pot has kind of a kanji stew setting and has like all these other little buttons that you think would do something really amazing, but it's just kind of timed already for the pressure cooking part. But what I just finished, which book did I think I just finished The Easy Vegan. And so, except for this one that's coming up, all my books have come out in the fall. So I kind of had a little break and I was like, it's a rough thing sometimes writing a book. There's lots of awesome things about it, but it does start to wear on you a little bit because you turn the manuscript in and you think, ta-da!
And then you have to edit.
Right. The first edits come back.
The galleys and everything.
Then they wanted to change things. Then you have to change all your titles or you have to do this. And then you're working with a photographer while you're doing the edits. And it can get just a little crazy because you're still trying to do a blog and your other work. And so it can get, there's a point it's like a roller coaster, and I know where the ups and downs are now.
Oh,
and so when it happens, you're just kind of like, it'll be over in a minute. But I was kind of like, then you turn it in and it all stops, and then that's a little sad too. Because you're so used to all this stress and pressure and thinking and having to do things, and you're just like, well, what do I do with myself now? And I was like, I want to play with the Instant Pot because everybody's talking about it. And there was a sale on Amazon a couple of years ago, and I was like, sweet. And I got it, and I went on, it's a Facebook group, and it's called G-Bombs. It's a vegan Instant Pot group that follows like a McDougall Engine 2 kind of diet. There's like more than 10,000 people in that group.
Wow.
That's such a specific group, and it's the best, most active Facebook group I've ever been in. So I went in and someone said, welcome, Kathy. And I was like, oh, how sweet. And I was going to take what I could get at that point.
Sure, yeah.
Kathy. And then it was amazing. People came out of the woodwork. Oh, my God, it's Kathy Hester. I have her bean book. No, I have her bean book. I love this recipe, and I've tried it in the Instant Pot. And I was like, you guys have just made my entire year. Because
what?
Awesome.
Like, that's a compliment. That's really awesome. So some of these folks were taking your slow cooker recipes and I guess any of your recipes and converting them to an Instant Pot type of a situation. Is that right?
Right. And the bean book wasn't slow cooker per se, though I did have some slow cooker options. And even in Easy Vegan, I have some slow cooker options too. But yeah, no, it was really nice. And so that was kind of, I don't know, it made me a little more interested, and I was just playing. I hadn't actually cooked with a pressure cooker of any kind before. So it was kind of like, okay, this is new. I'm not an expert in this.
Yeah, I've never done a pressure cooker either. And so the Instant Pot, I have to say, kind of intimidates me a little bit because, I don't know, I already have a slow cooker. Do I really want a pressure cooker? But it's fast, I hear. It's super fast.
It is fast. And here's another thing that I was super surprised about. I got rid of my rice cooker after I had the Instant Pot for 2 months. I felt comfortable enough just to give it away.
Really?
And I don't actually use the rice cooker setting because the rice cooker setting is really for white rice.
Okay.
So there's nothing wrong with using it, but it doesn't really cook brown rice very well. But I mean, you can cook brown rice in like 22 minutes.
That's quick.
And what you have to realize too, when you're hearing cooking times, and this can fool people, it still has to build up to pressure to start cooking. And then depending on how you release the pressure, a natural pressure release, if you just let it do it by itself so the pen drops and you can open the lid, you can't open the lid until then, until the pressure's released. So that can take sometimes another 20 minutes. Or you can do a quick release by carefully moving the steam valve from closed to open. And like if it's a soup, you have to do it in really quick spurts or stuff will start squirting out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But like if you're doing it for rice, you just have to be careful that you're not putting your finger over the steam. It's a really tiny little hole. So you'd have to kind of work at it. But you can use like a pot holder or something to do it as well.
So Kathy, to back up a little bit, so the Instant Pot, for everybody that doesn't know what it is that it's a non-stovetop multi-cooker. Is that correct?
Correct. So it's electric. It plugs into the wall. And one of the things about the Instant Pot brand per se, which again is a brand, it has a stainless steel insert. And that's really people who are using Instant Pot to eat healthier are looking to not have a nonstick coating. As we all know, probably from our rice cookers, the nonstick coating eventually goes away.
Right. So that's not going to get in your food.
Right. Yeah. Stainless steel, you're good. Also, it's going to clean up really good if you make a big mistake.
Okay.
Not that I've ever made a mistake.
So when we say it's a multi-cooker, so what all does it do? Because I just heard for the first time the other day that it can saute. And I just thought this was a pressure cooker and slow cooker combined.
And I tend to go over that, which is one of people's big complaints about slow cookers is they have to cook something before they put it in. The second one is everything tastes the same because they don't cook anything before they put it in. Imagine that. With the Instant Pot, you can either saute with a little bit of oil or no oil, depending on what your diet type is. And so the saute function, there's like 3 settings for each category. And so you push the button, it's like low, medium, high. And so usually it comes on a medium. It'll tell you when it's hot. You can go ahead and saute your onions, garlic, peppers. It's also great. So if you're making a curry, you can get your spices in there and let them kind of become fragrant, which is really good. So yeah, the saute function actually is a kind of a big deal. And if you use the saute function and do that and then go to the pressure cooker next, it'll actually come to pressure faster because it's already hot.
Oh, that's okay.
It's a ninja trick right there.
That's cool.
Ninja trick. Okay, so it has the saute function because Sharon pointed that out to me. I was like, what are you talking about? And I saw that there were different, like you said, there was like a stew button, a congee button, or a porridge button. There was, what other things are there? Rice and bean and chili button and poultry. So it's kind of this multi-cooker, but it is a pressure cooker. And so, Kathy, do you know how pressure cookers work, or do you know anything about the science of that?
Not much. I know that it keeps everything in and it builds up the pressure, which pushes things to make it cook faster. So it's like it squishes it to cooked, is how I think of it.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way of putting it because it really is basically that. You're just increasing pressure because and you have to always have water. Is that correct? There generally needs to be water because then you create steam, which increases the pressure, which then pushes everything into the food or cooks the food faster.
That's correct. So like if you're making a soup or stew or something like that, obviously it already has some liquid in it. If you were like steaming tamales is one thing that I may be doing later today. You put the rack in, it's awesome for tamales.
Yum.
There's a rack that comes with the Instant Pot, but if you have a different kind, you can buy them. And actually, lots of times you can get racks at the Chinese grocery.
Oh, okay.
And they're usually stainless steel already, and they're not very expensive. So then if I was doing tamales, so I'd put a rack down, and then I would probably put the tamales in some kind of steamer, either a silicone or just a regular old cheap metal one that you can get at any thrift store. And underneath the rack or over the steamer part before I put the tamales in, I would probably pour in about 1.5 cups of water. I tend to err on the side of more water, but like if you're trying to cook peas, you can probably get it to come up to pressure with 1/4 cup of water. And that's something you just have to play with because it really depends on what's in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But
what's in there as well as the quantity also? Is that accurate? Or does it really matter?
I will say generally it doesn't matter that much. However, when you get to a full pot of stew, the thickness is going to be a factor. Okay. One of the things actually I was just telling a friend this morning who was asking me, she had some problems making a chili, and she said it stuck, and then she put arrowroot in with the chili when she pressure cooked it. So what I do with thickeners is I would cook whatever without the thickener. Get the pressure, take the lid off, put in my thickener, use the saute function.
Oh.
Then use the thickener. And that way, because at a certain thickness, I tried to do a gumbo not so long ago. And I was trying it first in the pressure cooker. And it was like, no way. it came up to, it sort of came up to pressure, and then it'd go back down like a minute later. So it couldn't really, it was just too thick.
Okay.
So if I went back and did it again, I definitely would do everything but the roux and then add the roux later. And I think that would work perfectly fine.
Okay. Interesting. Because I make gumbo sometimes, but in my stock pot on the stove. But the roux is kind of the first thing that I do.
What you could
Well,
do
one
is
of them.
either make the roux separately on the stove while you're pressure cooking everything else.
Okay.
You know, and then that way they'd probably be ready about the same time to
Okay.
combine. And yesterday, I'm writing up the post today that's going to go out, I think, sometime this week on the blog for a cranberry pear whole wheat cake that I cooked in the Instant Pot.
Cool.
So you're telling me I can bake in the Instant Pot too? How did you do that?
I put in the rack that came with it that has little handles kind of to the side. And I wish I had it right here, but I have like a 6-inch ceramic butt pan, and like it's handmade. I got
Adorable.
it for like $2 at the thrift store. It's
Wow.
awesome. And it fits right in there. So it's probably like 4 small servings if you were eating like normal people, 6 small servings if you're, trying to be real delicate about it.
But just the right amount, you're saying. Just the right amount.
I'd rather have that much than enough to serve 12 because that's problematic in our house since there's 2 of us. The dogs would always like their share, but
But they don't get their share.
they get more than their share. We have greedy pigs instead of dogs. But so basically, whenever I'm baking in my slow cooker or the Instant Pot, I tend to make my batters a little thicker because you're adding so much moisture anyhow. You don't want it. It just helps cooking time not go on forever. And so I just mix, just a normal thing like some baking soda, some whole wheat flour, flaxseed, which is what vegans use for eggs, or one way vegans can use a binding agent, and the pears and the fresh cranberries and some cardamom. And then I put it in my little grease pan, covered it with foil. Under the rack, I had my 1.5 cups of water, set that in, put the top on, did it at high pressure, think for 20 minutes. Might have been 25 minutes. It'll be on the blog. I took notes.
Okay, yeah.
It's in front of me right now. And then what I do is I let it come down naturally. So it's still cooking a little bit extra.
Gotcha.
And then it ends up being really, really moist because I actually have a version of this in my cookbook that's coming out in January. And it's almost like an English steamed pudding.
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
And so it's super moist. And like the one in the book, I think I did an orange pecan.
Yum.
So with like Christmas spices. So it's like a yummy kind of fruit cake instead of like the weird
dried fruits that are,
yeah. And so this was just a little more fall-ish than winter-ish. And I thought it would be a fun trick because people don't think about doing that.
That's cool. I like it.
You just blew my mind. I really, like, you don't even know. I'm just like, she made a cake in a pressure cooker. Like, that's so crazy. But I think it is so neat.
It's a Ninja pot. It's not really an Instant Pot. It's a Ninja pot.
Except you have to be careful because Ninja has a brand of slow cookers that does saute, but they do not do pressure cooker. And that's
There you
the
go.
only reason I'm interjecting that. If someone is going to be confused out there. But if we go back to, and I know you were talking about the buttons, so there are a few things like when you're looking at soup, meat stew, bean chili, poultry, those are kind of cycles of pressure cooking. So when you click it, there's actually like a little algorithm graphic that goes along with it that only if you're super geeky you would see. So you might want to go look that up. I looked at it and I'm like, yes, I see the lines are a little different. Good enough for me. And there is a slow cooker in it as well, though it tends to cook a little hot because of the way everything is and that it's a metal pot in there. and just the way the mechanics are working, but you can slow cook in it. You can saute in it. When it's the pressure cooking, you can do different levels of pressure cooking too. So there's usually low or high. Typically, if someone hasn't mentioned low, it would be on high. You can use low like for asparagus, green peas. And there are people who will tell you can't cook crisp green little fresh veggies in the Instant Pot, but if you do it on low, and this will blow your mind. This blew my mind. You set it for 0 minutes.
What does that mean?
So it just goes up to pressure and then it comes back down. That's it?
Yep.
Oh, so it gives just the heat up, down, out.
Yep.
So it stays crispy.
Isn't that amazing?
Instant Pot hack, everybody. Instant Pot hack.
So, okay, there's a yogurt setting, which I love. And actually, being kind of mad scientist-y, I also decided to use it to ferment some dosa batter.
Oh, tell me more about this.
Okay.
What is dosa batter?
Okay. Dosa and uttapam batter, it's an Indian crepe. Mm-hmm. So dosa is the crepe part. Uttapam is when you make it into a pancake. So we make uttapams at our house because you just slap out some and there you go. So, I mean, it is the easiest, super fancy thing you'll make. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you get some urad dal, and that's just a lentil that's been split and skinned, and it's white. So if you go to the Indian market and look for urad dal, it's really cheap for a giant bag. And then you would take some rice, perhaps, or you could use, I think I used quinoa, millet, and brown rice. And basically you soak that, and then you blend it up in a blender. And then you have this batter, and it needs to ferment. Oh. And so you could do it in your stove just with a light on. That's what a lot of my friends do. Uh-huh. But I have an Instant Pot, so I had to see if it would work, and it really fermented up well overnight. So you can choose to not have the valve closed because you're not using a pressure aspect of it. You're just using it kind of as a steady temperature incubator.
Okay, and that's how it's fermenting.
Right, and it gives it this really nice, and it's always the same temperature when you do it. Oh. So it's pretty cool.
So Kathy, this is the reason why I've never pressure cooked before is because I'm afraid it's going to blow up. Can we talk about the Instant Pot? Is it going to blow up?
It's not going to blow up.
Okay, I feel better now.
You should. And I can tell you that with a lot of certainty in the amount that I've cooked in it the past little while getting ready for the book. And I've had 2 going at the same time for a while, and I didn't have really any problems with either one of them. I am scared of pressure cooking on the stove, which seems ridiculous. And one day I'll get over it. 2 of my friends, J.L. Fields and Jill Newsonow, are both vegan pressure cooker people. Uh-huh. And they both have books out that are awesome. So if people are looking specifically to stovetop pressure cook, please go look into their stuff because you won't find it in mine. And my mom had one, and it kind of freaked me out. And you always hear about them blowing up and things. These have a lot of safety mechanisms in them.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I just didn't even have a moment where the first time I turned it on, I was a little freaked out. So I'll tell you that, and I was kind of like, whoa, okay, it'll be in the kitchen, everything will be away, the animals will be downstairs, and then nothing. It was really anticlimactic.
That's reassuring, though. That's reassuring.
Exactly. And
less intimidating.
It's a really good entryway into that. You know, from what I hear, there's some really good reasons to love stovetop pressure cookers. But I loved my slow cooker, and I still love my slow cooker, and I'm kind of a gadget person, so having these electronic gadgets work really well for me. Another cool thing is it's a lot easier to take an Instant Pot to your hotel room if you're traveling than it would be a stovetop pressure cooker.
Oh, have you done this? What?
Or camping.
This is a game changer, I feel like.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Because you can just have everything ready to go and you just pop that in there, right? And just turn it on and go.
Absolutely. And I've always taken my slow cookers camping because you can do things like put ravioli or some kind of pasta in there and cover it with a sauce. and then just let it cook while you're out doing stuff, and then you come back and dinner's ready.
Right.
Yeah.
Instant Pot. This is really awesome. I just wanted to let everybody know, first of all, what Kathy's new book is called. It is actually available for pre-order on Amazon, and it's available January 2017. And it's called The Ultimate Vegan Cookbook for Your Instant Pot. 80 easy and delicious plant-based recipes that you can make in half the time. It sounds so appealing because we're all crunched for time. So I think that's one of the reasons why it is taking off, is because you can make a meal, a good home-cooked meal, in a lot shorter time than some of these things that are out there.
Yeah, and you're making it with all good natural ingredients too.
So what are some of the types of recipes that we can find in your cookbook that's coming out?
Well, I always have a staples chapter to start things off with. So like recipes you'd use in other recipes, and that goes for all my books.
Nice.
But in this one, they actually had a chapter that's kind of like, they wanted me to put in the easiest 10 recipes to start with or something. And one of those was the best not refried black beans.
Ooh.
And canned beans make me a little crazy though. I will say I keep some canned beans all the time, just in case.
Right.
So I'm not anti-canned bean, but once you price it out, so like for that 1 can of organic refried beans that you're paying, what now, $3 for?
Right.
Because the prices keep going up. You can buy like a pound of black beans, cook them with a little bit of onion, bell pepper, garlic, and some spices. So let's say maybe $3, right? And you're probably going to end up with 4 or 5 cans worth.
Right.
And you can freeze them. So I think that's one of the things to kind of first start doing. There's things like different Indian recipes, kidney bean etouffee.
Yum. That would be so good.
And all these things are easy. I made black bean quinoa burgers. So basically you're just making the actual mixture. You cook it all together, the beans and the quinoa and all that, and then make patties and bake them off in the oven. But you could do something else with them too. There's I did a vegan sushi bowl. So like where you make sushi rice, and then you put some different I steamed some carrots. I did like a little quick cucumber with like sesame oil, and I made a faux spicy tuna with tomatoes.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so good.
And I made some tamales. We talked about tamales. So there's an oil-free pumpkin tamale.
Ooh.
And then I also did a coconut oil, more traditional tamale that you stuff with things. And I make a mole sauce to go with it.
Oh,
So
yum.
and making a mole sauce is super easy because you're using that saute function to toast the chilies and then reconstitute them.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
And then
so-
you just pour in the rest of your liquid and pressure it.
Yeah. I've got like a red curry zucchini noodle soup, a really fun queso that's made with cauliflower. So it's cauliflower based.
Yum.
And it sounds like it would be disgusting.
No.
But what you do when you're doing the cauliflower magic is you steam the cauliflower just enough so it'll puree and no more. So it's probably a little underdone to what you would want to eat for steamed cauliflower. And that way, being the science gals, you probably know all the details of this, but it's like if it cooks too much, it bursts the cells and then that stinky stuff comes out.
Right.
That's how I know it. That's my scientific version of it.
Yes, that's your clue. It'll stink.
Oh, and steamed dumplings.
Mm.
So I have some steamed buns and steamed dumplings, and it has a steam function, and it actually works a little bit differently than some of the others. And you absolutely cannot leave out the water because it will be horrible. It really heats up really, really fast all on the bottom to really get that steam going. And so it steams things quite quickly.
Yeah.
You can make risotto.
Ooh.
Risotto is hard too. Really?
Yeah.
So how do you do that one? Is that one in the...
Without constant stirring.
Yeah, I've got a spring pea and asparagus risotto. So basically, you put in everything and you cook it for about 5 minutes because I'm using
Oh my gosh.
the real risotto rice instead of, you could do it with like a whole short grain brown rice or any rice you want. But some people only want their traditional rice. So
Yeah.
that's what we've done there. The only other one set of recipes I'd love to mention is because I've actually got these stainless steel, they look kind of like tiffins with a rack that actually fits in the Instant Pot. And so with that, I could cook 3 things at the same time. So I made some
wow.
like whole meals.
Okay.
So like I did an herbed French lentil with beets and pink rice.
So with those ones though, do we have to worry about different times or different pressures, or you've built it in such a way that you could do the entire meal at only one time and one pressure?
I did my best to do it only one time and one pressure. And sometimes people will change things around. So usually one thing is actually at the bottom of the actual Instant Pot. So like the rice. The rice is going to take longer than split yellow lentils or beets. So probably then I would try to put the next, the beets would be next. And then do whatever needs to cook less on the top.
That is really cool. I've learned so much about the Instant Pot. Well, and also about pressure cooking. I don't feel as afraid today, I think, because of this conversation, Kathy.
You shouldn't be, because if I've done it, you can do it for sure.
Okay, so this episode is actually going to be coming out a little closer to Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Everybody, I just want to say, go pre-order Kathy's book. Like I said, you can just look her up on Amazon, or else you can look up the Ultimate Vegan Cookbook for your Instant Pot, and you will find it. It's available January, I think 10th, was it, of 2017?
I think so.
And Kathy just told me a fun little fact, and I had no idea. But if you pre-order, anything on Amazon, you will get the cheapest price it ever drops down to before it comes out. So if it drops down for 2 minutes, and it goes down like $5 or something like that, you're going to get that price because you've already pre-ordered it. So just an FYI, you should go pre-order her book. And heck, on Black Friday, you should go pick up an Instant Pot, because I bet those are going to be hot items. That's what I think anyway.
Black Friday or Cyber Monday.
Oh yeah, Cyber Monday. That's right. So, and the other thing I want to direct people to, if you guys are not vegan, which I am not vegan, but there's something really attractive about having like a meatless Monday, or trying to slowly increase the amount of more plants in your diets. And so go visit Kathy at her blog, because it is delightful. There's so many resources there, and she's definitely done her excellent work there. So once again, her blog is healthyslowcooking.com, and she actually has a free ebook there if you guys sign up for her newsletter. It is an awesome resource. So go check her out there. We have enjoyed this time with you, Kathy. So thank you so much for coming on today and chatting with us.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, you guys. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
Yay!
Our podcast is brought to you today by our awesome and food-loving sponsors. Our sponsor today is Smith's Food and Drug, and their new service called ClickList.
ClickList.
Yes. Do you know what ClickList is, Sharon?
Actually, I do.
Tell me about it.
It is where you shop online for your groceries.
What?
So you place your order online, then you hit submit, you choose your time and day that you want to pick those groceries up, and you never have to get out of your car. You just drive to the store, they load it in, and you're done.
It's super easy. So this has been really fun, because whenever I go to Smith's, and you guys may know, we love Smith's. We love the Smith's, and we really do, you guys.
They're friends with everybody at their Smith's
pretty
Food and
much.
Drug.
We
It's weird.
love the Smith's. No, it's not weird. It's cool. So we go there a lot, and the nice thing about the ClickList is that there are going to be some times that we are busy and we are not able to go and pick up our groceries or do our usual extended time at the Smith's.
Hang out with all of your friends.
Yeah, exactly. But what is really nice is that, because we've been to the Smith's so many times, is that this ClickList has all of my preferences saved.
Because their preferences are saved on your Fresh Values card, right?
Yes, and it is wonderful. So they have a section, and it's called Sale Items for You. So they will even highlight things that are on sale that you have purchased in the past.
Nice.
It's pretty nice. And so that cuts down my time on finding my regular stuff really quickly. I'm like, oh yes, I need more bread. I need this, and this. Because let's be honest, there's some things that we go crazy for. Like we definitely buy crazy items on occasion, but we have our staples.
Oh yeah, you get the same stuff
Generally,
all the time.
you
yeah.
need to stock your pantry the same way. It's just easier that way. So
Right.
that's kind of the nice thing. And we have something really fun for our audience members.
What do we have, Winter?
We have a coupon. So Smith's has been so awesome to work with us, and they have given our listeners a $5 coupon when you spend $50 on one click list order. So what you'll have to do is go to hungrysquare.com and you will go and print our coupon there. And you can, like I said, you get $5 off a $50 order. So you can try out their service and
Get $5 off of your regular grocery, like your
Yes.
weekly grocery run.
Exactly. It is so wonderful. And this goes till December 31st of this year, 2016. So give it a try. We're super excited to kind of feature this because it is a little bit of it's a convenience factor. It's pretty nice.
It is. It's awesome. So get $5 off your grocery run. Go to hungrysquare.com.
Yes. And then after that, go ahead and place your order at Smith's Food and Drug. Thank you so much, Smith's. We're so excited to feature this.
Yay! Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is the segment of the show where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, the food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Okay, Sharon, what question do we have for this week?
Okay. So this week is coming from Small Space Entertainer.
Oh, okay.
And they write, I don't know if this is male or female. The holidays are upon us and I have a conundrum. I'm typically the entertainer/host in my family, but I've moved to a smaller space. I'm happy to host my family. I think it's fun. However, I don't like the lingering that usually takes place. Do you have tips for how I can keep the long lingering to a minimum?
Ooh, that's tough because I live in a smallish space. We live in an apartment and that can be tricky.
Yeah, as do I. I also live in an apartment.
Now, when it comes to the lingering, I have a hard time with that too, because even though I think most people think I'm an extrovert, I am an extrovert, but I do need a little bit of recharging time as well.
Yeah.
And if people stay too long, then I'm like, I can't sit by myself.
Oh,
Not
no,
doing
you totally
anything.
can't.
Because
You
that's
have to
awkward.
engage with your guests
Yeah.
and things like that. I think structure is really good. For me personally, like, I don't know. I mean, I have done Thanksgiving dinners where I have cooked for a few people. And I've made everything. And dang, if that isn't hard, because I work full time.
Yes.
I just I don't have the time to take like that my grandmother could have she prepared for a week.
Yeah.
Me, I'm lucky
That
if
yeah.
have shopped the weekend previous to the holiday that I'm cooking for.
Exactly.
And even then that's crazy at the store. So I think it would help to make it more of a potluck style.
Yes.
Just make it as easy as possible on you. And also don't be so traditional in your food. I'm just going to
Yes.
throw that out there. I have had Thanksgivings where I've made fish.
And that
We have not had turkey.
I think that's awesome.
And if you want, just totally do something opposite. Make pizzas. Everybody have a pizza bar, type of thing where everybody just makes their own personal pizza. I mean, I think the holiday is more holidays, like Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving. It's more about actually being with your family and
The
those
gathering.
you love and the gathering of it. Especially when you're hosting these gatherings, it's more of the gathering than it is anything else, or keeping to some tradition. And traditions are good, but if it's taxing, don't let it be.
Well,
Forego the tradition if it's too taxing.
yeah, especially if you are in a small space, you may not be able to have everybody sit down at a table.
Right.
I don't know what your setup is, but he or she may only have a table that seats 4.
Right.
So maybe going for, like you said, Sharon, a non-traditional type of a non-traditional fare might be a little bit more.
Have a picnic inside.
Yeah, or something.
Lay out some blankets in your
Mhm.
living room and have a picnic inside with your food. Or back to the structure comment, like, so my idea of this holiday party would be potlucking it. And if you have to, picnic in the living room.
Yep.
But then have a set time for, hey, this is our, cocktail hour, social hour, whatever. The pre-festivities, if you do that,
Mhm.
if your family does that. Then your feast, your food, whatever that contains, whatever that consists of. And then maybe like 1 or 2 games and then
Done.
you're done. And that way people aren't lingering and just like sitting around and you want to get on with your day. Yes, Winter.
I'm raising my hand. I really am.
She is.
So I have a question then. So we know that Thanksgiving specifically is known for the playing of football games.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a culprit when it comes to lingering, because some people, they do have the dinner and they have it well structured, but then people just kind of like, oh, can I just
Sit and watch the game.
sit and watch the game? And I can see that being stressful, because if as the hostess being like, well, I have to kind of attend to them, even though they're going to sit here for 3.5 more hours to watch the game.
Yeah, so I think back to the idea of structure is that you have an agenda of what you want to have happen. And yes, that can sometimes fall apart. But have an invitation.
Ooh, fancy.
I mean, if
Nobody sends out invitations anymore.
no, especially, yeah, and that can be really fun. And especially to your own family, it can make it even more fun. That sounds like work, but I think it can make it more fun. And you don't even have to like get all Pinteresty on it, but you could if you wanted. So like
There
an
is that option.
invitation is broad, but like you could just go to Target or the dollar store and just get some basic pre-made invitations and say, hey, our Thanksgiving lasts from, whatever time you want, like 1 to 3, or maybe you're doing a brunch, for heaven's sakes.
Yes.
Make it at a different time that maybe doesn't invite lingering, right?
Yes.
And, kids have nap times or something like that, but make a specific time frame. Or say, on the invitation, like, dinner is served at 6 p.m., games are at 7 p.m., and, the kitchen closes and the host, my hosting duties are done. Like, give your family an expectation of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like my hosting duties are done at 9, and I will go to bed.
Yes.
And I mean, I've had some friends that have said, hey, I'm going to kick you out right now. And they just say it in like a cheerful way, but you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's time to go.
Yes.
And
I think there's nothing
that's okay
wrong
to do with your family.
Yeah, I
I
think
totally think that's fine.
because you have just made them a meal.
Yeah.
You are opening up your house to them,
Yes.
and you've gone to the effort of maybe making invitations and planning an agenda and like creating this gathering space, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's not a bad thing to say, okay, it's time. And
Yeah.
we
You're
have
the host. You get to decide.
yeah, we have a little bit of an excuse with our child. We can be like, well, it's time to put her to bed. So thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
think those are
and you can say the house winds down at, whatever time, 7 p.m.
so people know.
So people know, like, get the heck out.
Yeah.
I think that that's totally fine to provide that guideline.
People need structure. They may not know it, but they need structure.
They thrive on it.
Yes.
Give the people what they want.
I think you answered it all.
Yeah.
Those are some great suggestions.
Maximize your space, fill it with people, and kick them out.
When the time comes, of course.
Maximize your time by having a potluck and kick them out when the time comes.
Mic drop.
Thanks for joining us today on our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music.
You should totally follow us on Instagram at Hungry Squared. We're doing some fun stuff there. So join us over there on Instagram at Hungry Squared. And we will look forward to the next episode of Food Nerdery.
Yes. Thanks for joining us. Okay, bye. Love you, bye.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.